Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Chris Williams.
Welcome, New Life family, friends, listeners, wherever you are, however you are. We're so glad that you are with us today. And I just want to start off the show because I've been reading this new book that I absolutely love from one of my favorite authors. Happens to be this guy that some of us are really familiar with, Dr. Henry Cloud, in his latest book, Why I Believe. And one of the things I love about this book is it kind of gives us a snapshot back into his personal history. But also is a place where we can really tackling tough questions and issues of our faith from both a position of great compassion and, of course, it's Dr. Cloud. So Henry is going to give us a tremendous amount of insight and intelligence in there. And I mention it because in the month of July, if you give any donation of amount of $25 or more, we will send you a copy of this book. And it is well worth it because you're going to get a book, but you're also going to help us do what we do, and that is help people in life's hardest places. We're going to bring hope, and we're going to bring healing, and we're going to continue to do what we do, but we can't do what we do without your help. So join us in this and partner with in us. And again, $25 or more, and you get a copy of Why I Believe. And so let's jump right in. I have Marc Cameron with me, licensed marriage and family therapist. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris.
Awesome. And I have licensed psychologist, Dr. Alice Benton.
Hi, gentlemen.
All right, Alice, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's on your mind?
All right.
Talk to me.
A lot's on my mind, but what I'm going to talk about is how we can increase our self-control when it comes to our screen use. I was visiting family over the weekend, and a lot of my family is of the mind of definitely limit as much as possible. Some don't even have televisions in their home, and that's the environment that I grew up in as well. And
Amish community?
You would think so. My husband said, "In what year were you born? What? This happens in the world?" Yes, it does. Not in a whole lot of homes, but in some. One of my siblings said to me, really the only time my growing children, like a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, sits by me is at church. And that's when we hold hands. That's when I rub their back. Mm-hmm. But we get that physical contact mainly at church. Otherwise, we're on the go so frequently. That's it. We don't sit by each other. I thought, how interesting, because we sit down and watch some shows at night together. Mm-hmm. And it is a time of cuddling, foot rubs, back rubs. So we touch each other a lot when we're sitting down watching some really interesting and enriching shows. We learn about ants, and we learn about bugs in the Serengeti, and we watch The Chosen. It is adding to our family bonding and our lifestyle, and I don't want to cut that out. Yeah. I miss it when we don't have it, even though I grew up in such a limiting screen atmosphere, which had a lot of benefits to it. So I think screen use can be so beneficial and can enhance our lives. But I also know that we almost all tend to use it too frequently, and we can be at risk for developing addiction. And so I suggest that we try a couple of strategies to increase our self-control when it comes to being able to separate from our screens. Now, my family and I went on a vacation, and we decided to do a 4-day screen detox, not 100% of the time, but about 99% of the time on this vacation. And there were a couple of things we did to set it up so that we had buy-in from our family, because that's asking a lot. To some of you, it may sound like a shocking amount. To the Amish community I grew up in, that sounds like every day we lived that way. So here's what helped us to get to that point. First of all, some modeling where once a week I try to set my screen down and power it down for an entire day. I do it before I ask it of my children. Then I ask my husband if he'll join with me in this and if he'll support us stepping away from our screens. Not all spouses will agree to do this, but over time, and it's taken us time, my spouse has come to agreement. And then it helps to model letting go of certain screen activities rather than just setting our phone down entirely.
Our marriage was just so toxic and just so many simple interactions that turned into conflict. And so we signed up to participate in the workshop.
New Life's Intimacy and Marriage Weekend examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The tools that we received from the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop were tremendous. It was so much that we were able to take and utilize and actually come back and apply.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to have that great marriage you've always wanted. The next Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is July 26th to the 28th in Washington, D.C. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. 1-800-639-5433.
Best decision we could have ever made. There's no price that we can put on having healthy marriages.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. M.R. Siemens, a retired pastor, was returning home around midnight when he came upon a motorist covered in oil and red-faced with anger. Upon stopping his car, M.R. asked how he could help. The man asked for a ride and immediately let loose with a barrage of profanity. When he finished, he asked the pastor what he was doing out so late, and M.R. told him that he was a pastor returning home from some evangelistic meetings. Embarrassed, the man asked the pastor why he didn't stop him. The pastor replied, "Well, your problem isn't your mouth, it's your heart." And he proceeded to share with the man who Jesus was and what it means to be one of his followers. How else should we expect him to speak? M.R. later asked. Would it be better for a man to sing hymns all the way to hell? Do you have questions about God's grace or salvation or what's in your heart? Well, visit newlife.com. I'm Stephen Arterburn. Thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
Wow, Steve brings up a crucial point. You know, here's the thing that I find so often. We have a lot of really good principles and a lot of good things to live by. And, you know, we talked in a previous show about boundaries. We can talk about love. But one of the things that oftentimes you don't see is that we're looking for a behavioral answer to what's needed as a heart change disposition. You know, guys, it's why I come back to this faith that we have over and over and over again. Because truly, out of the heart spilleth our life, right? Out of the heart comes whatever we are. And that our faith really, in Christ's work in our life, is an internal transformation job, much more than just a behavioral alteration. And I just think that it's a good thing for us to be able to come back to over and over is where is my heart in this? What are my intentions? If I do the right thing out of the wrong intention or the wrong heart disposition, it can really actually feed the wrong thing.
And God says it's a clanging gong.
Yeah.
It doesn't count. It's not worth it.
Yes.
Because he wants
Yeah.
our heart more than he wants our actions.
Yeah.
But the right heart will produce the right actions that are truly meaningful.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about the work that we do, and Marc, this really speaks to the heart of your work and the legacy of 180, is that so many times in marriage, we are looking to do the right thing. I'm trying to be a better husband, or the wife is trying to be a better wife. But there is a heart issue that is unaddressed and in the way. We have Intimacy in Marriage coming up. And it's coming up in Washington, D.C., July 26th through the 28th, which means just in a couple of weeks. Early bird pricing ends tomorrow. So if your marriage, like all of ours, needs help, and maybe it's in crisis or maybe it just needs a tune-up, Intimacy in Marriage is for you. And I'll finally say this. I say it all the time in my work with leaders. The condition of your relationship is going to directly affect the condition of every other thing in your life. If you're in good relationship, if you're in a healthy marriage, it's going to improve every other area of your life. And so really it's like all these other things that get in the way that seem of higher priority are actually just fooling us.
And what I love about intimacy in marriage is it's going to expose you to patterns that are happening in your life, and often patterns that are unconscious that you're not aware of, that are dictating the way that you're behaving, that are producing certain triggers in you and certain reactivity patterns. And that was my experience when I first read How We Love, which is the material that Intimacy in Marriage is based off of. It's on attachment styles. And when I read through that, I was blown away. How does Mylan and Kay know about me? And they haven't met me. And literally, I read things in the book about myself that I could not have told you about me. I couldn't have described it that way, but when I read it, I said, that is exactly me. And if you don't know about this material, come to the workshop. You will be flabbergasted at how accurate this stuff pinpoints. And it's all research. It's based on research.
Well, and it helped me see the frustration of my wife. Because as you said, when I identified as a pleaser, so under distress and anxiety, difficult things, what I do is I try to make you happy to make my anxiety go away. And if I can make you happy with me, then I could be okay. Well, the other side of me is an avoider. And so under high conflict or challenging things, I'll either try to get you happy with me or I will ignore you. Can you imagine what it would be like to be married to a person like that? Well, my wife was. And so her frustrations were very legitimate. Those are things I couldn't see that were happening inside of me that helped me take that next step on being a much, much better connector.
And on the surface, that doesn't seem bad that you want to please your wife.
Yeah.
But the internal motivation about that is that you weren't getting to be who you were. You weren't getting to have a full voice because you were really just managing your own anxiety.
Absolutely. And it was blocking me from hearing her and what was happening inside of her. And that really goes back to where we started about, like, there was a heart disposition that was off. Even if as a husband, I was pulling the right levers, I wasn't connecting with my wife at a deeper level.
Intimacy in marriage also helps us realize that being needy, having needs, is not a bad thing.
Yes.
It's how we express them, how we ask for them to be met, and how we meet our spouse's needs that can actually lead to such health and benefit in the marriage. I thought I had to eliminate my needs, hide them even, pretend I don't have them, and just serve my spouse. But that leads to a bitter, resentful wife eventually.
Well, you can't eliminate needs unless you eliminate emotions. Emotions indicate needs. It indicates a need that we have to be able to resolve the emotion that we're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, one of the ways in which you can join the show, which you can ask a question on the show, is you can write in a question for us. And every once in a while, we want to get into these writing questions. And so I want to get to one today. It's from John. And he says this. John says, how do I get my wife to understand that she and I are the primary relationship and it's not her and her mom? He's trying to figure out, how do I set appropriate boundaries with my in-laws that my wife doesn't agree to? And he's like, I'm afraid I come across as a jerk. So, he's in this marriage. They've been in it for 15 years. And his wife is really kind of still really emotionally attached to her family and sometimes in unhealthy ways. And John is struggling because his in-laws to him can be overbearing. And so her desire to be with her family of origin and his struggle with them is really creating a lot of conflict in their marriage. So, Mark, where do we go from here?
Well, it's God's commandment for us to leave and cleave, and it's actually great advice for us to do that, because if our spouse doesn't become our number one priority, right, then how do we model for our kids what marriage looks like? Yeah. And so it's fine to be able to enjoy your family. It's great to be able to enjoy the family that you grew up in, but we need to learn to see when we are enmeshed in a relationship, meaning when we are relying on emotional support from someone else that we should be relying on from our spouse. Because when we do that, we actually rob our spouse of that emotional intimacy. It's a difficult situation here, John, because it sounds like you have tried to tell your wife this. And what I would suggest is going to a counselor. Get that neutral third party to be able to reflect it back in a way that she can receive. And then, we were talking earlier about intimacy in marriage and the work of Mylan and Kay, how we love and attachment styles. I would also look and start to take responsibility for your side of the street, as Steve often says, and look at and see how may you be negatively impacting the marriage, and start to work on you. And as we, Alice, in your opener, you talked about modeling for your kids. As we model for others, that's the best way that we teach. If telling is not working, teach through modeling.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to give an example from my own marriage, John, in answer to your question. Because whatever your wife is taking to her parents, you want her to bring some part of that to you first, or in some form or fashion. And so pointing this out as gently as you can to try to help her to see that your request is going to strengthen the bond of your marriage is what I would suggest. The example from my own life is that my dad's a mechanic, and early in our marriage, I went to him with all mechanical questions, and I bypassed my husband, and I didn't even think anything of it. My dad's an expert in this. And my husband, he was wise in this. First, he told me what he appreciated about what I bring to him. I appreciate that when you're sad, you come to me with comfort. If we can start with a positive, our spouse is better able to hear the next piece of it. And I feel frustrated and lonely when you go to your dad with all your mechanical problems, because I want to be your go-to with that. So I ask, would you consider coming to me first when you have a car problem, and let's try to figure it out together. And if we can't, then let's go to your dad. But I want to be your first person to go to. Now, I'd ask you, John, pick something really specific, like my mechanical situation that I'm using, because your wife may struggle to hear the overall pattern. And so if you start with a specific one small example, she'll probably be better able to receive it. And then I would end with this. Thank you for hearing me. Can I have your permission to point out when I'm feeling this way, when I'm feeling like you're not coming to me first? Can I gently point it out and ask you to redirect that thing to me, and see how your wife takes that?
Yeah, I think this is great. Or you can just create bylaws for your in-laws. So here's the rules that around the rules of engagement. Here are by bylaws for my in-laws. But the truth of the matter, as we were talking about before, the bylaws may not address a heart issue. But that is it. Oftentimes when I see this, what I'm seeing is a form of arrested development. And that is a fear to move on to that next stage of life, and to really rely on my family of origin. And I think I think there needs to be a lot of compassion and understanding around that. But there's really two things I see in marriages that need to happen, and that is two primary components. And marriage is about companionship, obviously. That's the thing that's like just, okay, yeah, it's about relating. But there's this other thing that I think is missed that is just as essential and important. Marriage is about creating. And it's creating a common life together. And that's oftentimes where a lot of couples get really caught up and trapped, is they have different visions for what life will look like. And this is where good couples counseling can really come in. It's like really help them work out what if what we want to make looks different beyond just how we connect. And I think that those are the two areas of life that marriage is going to work out over the course of a lifetime. And I would say this, it also takes iteration, right? This happens in chapters that are unfolding in our life. And so these are things that need to be revisited all the time. In fact, one of the things I really like that couples do is a renewing of vows. And sometimes I'm like, you may want to revisit your vows. And revisiting your vows is that different stages of life require different things. And so, again, moving into marriage, moving into adulthood, moving into empty nesting, moving into retirement, moving into or navigating crisis, this takes an ongoing negotiation between a couple, both in a relating and a creating aspect. And that's where I just love the work that we do here. Love how we love, because how we love provides us the strong foundation of the connecting, the relating piece that allows us to move forward into the creating piece.
I'm going to add a very unpopular thought to this that, John, I hope your wife will hear, but this is for all of us spouses, that acquiescing or mutual submission when our spouse gives us their preference and we don't have a moral problem with their preference. It brings such life to the marriage when we're willing to submit to what our spouse has asked of us. This is an ongoing battle for me, but it blesses my marriage each time I tell my husband, I will do what you're asking, especially if he's not asking something immoral or unethical. And then he's more likely to do the same for me. So it's a give and take, and it builds up the bond.
Absolutely. If you want more life and flourishing in your relating and creating in your marriage, again, Intimacy in Marriage, July 26th through the 28th, Washington, D.C., register today because it is the last, or early bird pricing ends actually tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day for that early bird. Get that discount. We'd love to see you there. And we're going to go and take a call right after this.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hit with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. You know, I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found life recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are so glad that you are with us today. I have in office Dr. Alice Benton. I have Marc Cameron. And I also have, about to be with us, Kit, listening in Redondo Beach, California on KKLA, our local station that we're at here in the studio. So, Kit, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Talk to us. What's going on today?
Well, I've been struggling lately in a long-time friendship that I have. A dear friend of mine, somebody who has walked with me through all ups and downs of life, a Christian sister who I've really leaned on, and she's leaned on me over the years. But lately has been responding to me in ways that are troubling, and it has revolved around as I have gotten older and my mom has gotten older, I've gotten really involved in helping with caregiving with my mom. She has dementia and chronic pain, and so I share with my friend what my mom's going through, and at times it's really difficult and a struggle to make to help my mom make good decisions, or to start having Head Start to make some health decisions for her.
Uh-huh.
And as I've shared with my friend, what's happening, her response fairly recently was, well, that's why when I get to the point where I need a caregiver or somebody needs to help me with the kind of things your mom needs help with, and I'm considering physician-assisted suicide.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I was just shocked to my core. I guess on two levels. One was like the implications of what, and perhaps I was taking it too personally, but the implications of how she views my mom's value. Because
did you check in with your friend on this? Did you have a conversation about that comment?
No, I was speechless. I just didn't. I was like, what? Plus, and then to hear her just completely overlook biblical principles about the end of life and sanctity of life and the value of people, no matter how old they are, how much help they need.
Yeah, her comment about assisted suicide, it's shocking spiritually. It's not at all what you expected from your friend, as you've known her for so long. And it seemed like a comment about your mom. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So have you two pulled back from each other since then, or what's happened in the relationship since she said that?
No, I mean, in terms of how much I'm sharing, I have pulled back. In terms of, I don't share a lot anymore about my mom, because I struggled so much.
Because
when she said that.
Yeah, the statement hit really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even another friend of hers has an elderly mom who is bedridden, and my friend said, that's no way to live.
For sure.
And I'm like, so what you're saying is, what? So I could.
Well, what's the question? Yeah. Sorry, Kit, let me jump in here for time's sake. What's the question for us? How can we help you?
I feel like I could address how her comments,
how you heard them,
how I heard her comments, and how that feels about how she values my mom, or doesn't. Not my mom in particular, but like old people, elderly people who need a lot of help. But I feel like the sanctity of life questions, the biblical view of end of life, I feel like that's such a huge topic. I feel it upsets me that like maybe her church has never addressed it, or. What
would be
my question is like, I don't know how to address that aspect of it with her.
You don't know
not just how I feel about my mom, but the larger story of
what she believes about end of life issues.
Yeah, and why does she seem dismissive? Like, why does she feel like that is an option that is a good decision, or something that is good?
As you imagine, perhaps saying something to her like, I was really startled and concerned for you when you brought up assisted suicide that other day. And as we've been Christians for so long together, I've been curious, how does that fit with your Christian beliefs? How do you understand it? How do you feel about what the Bible has to say about it? Because I love you, I care about you, and I could we talk this out a bit? I want you to think over the break, how you imagine she'd respond, and what it would feel like to be so bold to lay it out like that. And then I want to hear from you after the break, what that would elicit in you.
Yeah, that'd be really, really good. So again, Kit, these are, really big, difficult things, and friendships can get messy at times. And so we're going to come back to you. We're going to address a lot more of what that and what's going on. I also want to mention that if you give a gift of $25 or more here in the month of July, we will send you a copy of Why I Believe, Henry Cloud's latest book. It's a good one. Don't miss out on it.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because, you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch listening to all this great information and not paying, so my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We are talking with Kit. Kit, if I get this story correct, what I hear is this, is that you had a conversation with your friend about your mom who is experiencing dementia and kind of entering into these really challenging and difficult late stage in life issues, and that are just incredibly challenging. Your friend responded that if that happens to me, I would consider, assisted suicide or ending my own life as a result of experiencing this, and that just hit really, really hard and close for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And we left you with a question to think about. How would it feel to make some bold questions to get more clarification from your friend about who she was talking about and what she meant by this? How would you feel doing it, and how do you think she'd respond?
I think I could address that with her more. I feel more comfortable, I guess, or confident, not confident per se, but comfortable addressing, how her response affected me and how I felt that it felt like it was sort of dismissive of what I'm experiencing and that it's valuable, and that what my mom is needing at this time in her life is valuable, and that she's worth that investing in love
the
and
care. The care that
right.
you're giving her.
Yeah. But the other level of just, in principle, the principle of sanctity of life and how it applies to those at the end of life, and it's those larger topics that I feel like I don't know how she would respond, and I feel like I don't have good resources to kind of prepare for that conversation.
So Marc has something that I think will help.
Yeah,
with
Kit,
this.
did your friend say that she is considering assisted suicide, or she said that she would do that if she was in a similar position to your mom?
That she would at whatever point that she feels like she needs too much help.
Oh, okay. So she doesn't have her
you know.
own underlying medical condition that she's deteriorating
No,
from. This is just her opinion.
No, not at all. This is like, when I'm old, I'm going to do this because I don't want to live like want to live like that.
Yeah, and you were surprised at her opinion, and also felt like it was a little, insensitive to say it to you in that moment. So I agree with Alice. What Alice is saying is learning how to go to your friend and saying, hey, can we have a conversation about something that was brought up the other day? And if you notice what Alice said is Alice started with her emotion. She started with how she was making herself feel. Because when we disagree on an opinion, we can still connect with an emotion. And so I would lead with that. Lead with how it impacted you in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then explore. As you explore her thoughts, explore her feelings about it too, because oftentimes people make strong opinions because they've had significant experiences that have happened to them too, and that shapes how they feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kit, you don't have to go in having prepared answers for this, because I think your friend probably needs to be heard more than anything else. But you can certainly, if she says, I do want to take my life, I'm not interested in living, if she expounds on that more, you can direct her to us. Have her call us. Let us give her the books. Let us give her the counselor if she needs or wants one. But you don't have to have all the answers for it. Be a resource for her, not the answers.
Okay.
And Kit, I oftentimes say this. She didn't give you actually a whole lot of information. It sounds like she did. But she gave you a whole big story in one sentence. But what we want to be able to do with people who say things like, hey, if that happened to me, we want to check in with them. Give them the benefit of the doubt. You want to be honest, like Marc said, with yourself. You want to, again, check in with that larger story that Alice was talking about. But start with where it is. It's not what they believe. It's about the relationship and the friendship. You led with, man, this friendship's really meaningful. Start there. Hey, this was said, here's how I took it. What did you mean? What was happening inside of you? So that actually has the opportunity for this relationship to deepen.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to give you a scenario. I have no idea if this is what she's feeling. But if you're talking about what's happening with your mom, and inside of her, she was having a lot of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. And she was just like, I have no idea what I would do. This is too much for me. And she made it about herself, which was not a good move, but made it about herself like, oh my goodness, if that ever happened to me, I would just want to end it. Okay. No, is that actually what she would do? We have no idea. But that statement had an impact, and that's what you want to clarify. You want to go for clarity on the impact of that statement and where she's coming from with it.
Thank you for being that kind of friend that would follow up with these tough conversations, and that kind of daughter that would hold this period in your mom's life as so sacred and worthy of being protected. You're a good daughter, Kit.
And Kit, we're going to send you a copy of Dave Stoops' book, Living Strong, Finishing Well. Dave is just a phenomenal example of living that out to the very end and really helping us understand the incredible sanctity of life. And that as long as we have breath, we have God, and we're going to, again, living well, finishing strong. And again, lots of different moving parts in these stories in these situations. But again, I say in relationship, the first thing that we want to go for is clarity. What do we really mean by these things? So again, Kit, thank you for calling in. We're going to go to another call. We're going to go to Debbie in Albany, New York, listening on YouTube. Debbie, are you there?
Yes. Thank you so much for taking my call.
No problem. Love having you, and would love to hear what is on your mind today.
I have a brother that I guess my question is, I'm looking to see if I should re-engage with him, and if so, how I would do that. We're both believers.
What caused the disengagement?
The background of our relationship is he's a very strong believer. He's very opinionated, and I'll give an example. If I have a telephone conversation with him, I don't talk at all. My husband will walk in the room and say, "Are you actually talking to somebody?" He's like, "Yes," but I'll go ahead and put it on speaker and make my bed, do my dishes. And he will just keep talking. And he calls me touchy-feely. I try to see everybody's point of view. He's very, with the Bible, and this is the way it is, and that's the way it is. And
so your brother has all the answers, right?
I think he thinks so.
Okay, yeah. And he is more than willing to share all the answers that he has, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Debbie, how long has he done that?
About 10 or 15 years. He came from he was homeless and an alcoholic.
Wow.
To make a long story short, my mom and I have been praying for him forever. He was living in a box on the streets, and he just looked up, saw church one day, went in. He literally got saved, stopped drinking, has a flourishing business. It's just a wonderful testimony.
Wow.
But he also doesn't realize he's very like a bull in a china shop and very strong.
And you don't talk to him anymore?
Well, I had a recent conversation with him on the telephone. He had recent knee surgery, and I called him 3 days after the surgery to see how he was doing. He was in a lot of pain. I understand that. 2 weeks went by. I have small grandchildren. I have 2 daughters. I have a husband. I work full time. I got busy, and I didn't call him. He's tough, like I said. It's not comfortable to talk to him, so I kind of
So you avoided it?
A little bit, not really knowingly.
Yeah.
But I knew it's gotten kind of a long time. I better call him. So I called him, and he lit into me like the 4th of July.
Because he was hurt that you didn't call him.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He told me I was a cold snake.
Oh, wow.
And then I hung up on him.
Yeah.
Because I don't like him to treat me. I can't. If somebody's going to start yelling at me and being awful to me, I just end it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Debbie, hear the music. We're going to head to a break here pretty soon. We're going to come back, and we're going to really tackle this thing with you and your brother, help you head in the right direction. So, again, intimacy and marriage, it's coming up in a couple weeks. If your marriage is struggling and you need help, sign up today. Early bird ends tomorrow. You can do that just by going online, www.newlife.com, or give us a call at our call center, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. It's as easy as that. We'll return right after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Dr. Heidi Summers on coaching.
A lot of people don't understand the difference between counseling and coaching. Coaches can help you with strategizing. Not everyone is in a crisis or recovering from a trauma. A lot of people just need help getting to where they want to be, and they don't know how to do that. And so it's helpful to have a third party come in to give objective feedback, set goals, create accountability, and help you walk out what your goals actually are.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches are intended to help you live in the present and goal set toward what it is you want for the future.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and we're talking with Debbie. And Debbie, I mean, such a remarkable story about your brother who is really living out this incredible redemptive, again, narrative of God taking someone on the streets, caught in addiction. You know, we know that this is a lethal situation that he's in, and he finds him. Finds God, finds recovery, finds life, and now is flourishing. But we also know this, that there probably is a lot of emotional distress in your, a lot of things, maybe even hurtful things in your brother's background that maybe are still having their effects. Would that be accurate?
I don't know. He doesn't portray that at all. He doesn't see, he doesn't see his children because they were, he was an alcoholic and they don't want anything to do with him now. But he has said he's prayed about it and, he's sent a letter to them and they don't want anything to do with him. But he's gone, he's over it with God. He's dealt with it.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's true. I'm sure he does have, how can he not, But,
well, let's do this because I think Marc can help us pull back the curtain on this a little bit. Marc, what do you have?
Yeah, Debbie, so it sounds like you guys are stuck in a pattern and that it's going to continue unless you address it. Now, I'm really glad for you that you didn't allow your brother to continue talking to you in that way and that you hung up the phone. But when you next address it with him, I would, on another show, I talked about boundaries, and I talked about that boundaries are not necessarily telling people what they can't do. It's telling people what you're willing to do. And so if you don't go to your brother and tell him that you want to be part of the conversation and you want to be able to have a voice, he's going to continue doing what he's doing. And if you just avoid him or keep hanging up, you're not really going to solve the problem. Now, part of your growth may be learning how to have this difficult conversation and address this with your brother. Have you tried to do that? And what's your response when I ask you about addressing it?
In fact, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pattern. We've had about 4 or 5 of these conversations. And he has called me back and apologized.
Okay.
But it just keeps happening. I mean, he was awful to my mother, the way he spoke to her. He doesn't understand that you can't take this stuff back. You can't just put it back in the bottle. It's there. And it's a pattern for him, I think. But for me, I just don't know. Because if I call him up, and I'm trying to get godly advice because my husband isn't really a strong Christian. And he's just telling me, "Nope, you don't know the way he is. Nope, just leave it alone, Deb. Don't call him again." But I don't know if that's godly. Well, him and I both want to serve the Lord in this.
What's the boundary that you've set with your brother? Here, you've addressed it with him, and he's apologized. But what's the boundary that you've set from it?
The only boundary I set is that I will hang up if you speak to me in that fashion.
So you've told him that, or you just do that?
I did not tell him that. I just do it.
Okay, but I would tell him that. As you go and address this rupture, I would tell him what your boundary is. I would point out too what is happening. Say, oftentimes when we have a conversation on the phone, it seems like it's you doing a lot of the talking and I don't really get to have a voice. And I really want to have an enjoyable conversation with you. And I want it to be more of a back and forth where we both get to share. And I understand that you may not agree with my opinion. But part of being in a relationship is being willing to listen, to hear each other out, because I do that for you. And listening is not agreeing. And so next time we have a conversation, I'd like it to be a little bit more balanced.
Okay. And if I call, should I call him? How should I leave this? Or should I wait for him to call me? Should I?
Debbie, I think your heart will be unsettled until you do what you can to address it. And so it's like God calling us that we try to make peace where and when we can. And some of it's beyond us, but because it's stirring your head and your heart so much, I think you'll sleep better if you make an attempt to address it. I would bet that you're probably a people pleaser and a conflict avoider like I am. And so when people talk to us,
much.
yeah, okay, yeah. So when people are talking to us for an hour, we feel like we can't stop them. They've got to run out of words, otherwise this isn't going to end. And we can be trapped by what other people want to take from us, and we just feel like we have to give it. In my family growing up, we called it the living martyr, and that's what we thought, we women especially thought we were supposed to aspire to. We should just really allow so much suffering to take place because it seems to be what the other person wants, and we don't say anything about it. So I think there's a lot of room to grow boundaries. When I read the Boundaries book and I saw the example that you can tell a person, I've got 30 seconds left before I need to do my next thing. If you want to try to tell me what you have in that 30 seconds, go ahead. Otherwise, let's talk at another time. Shocked me. You can do that to a person, or you can say, I can talk for 5 minutes today. That's the amount of time that I have. And I've got some ideas that I want to share with you. That was it was inconceivable for me, Debbie, in my people pleasing and conflict avoiding. So I really want you to read Boundaries and to think of this with your brother.
I read it.
Okay, good. This is probably a long-term plan of building up the courage to start saying more of what you can give and can't give and the opinions that you want to share. I could only develop those, Debbie, in a group of women who were doing the same thing with me. And the point where I knew I'm really starting to get somewhere was when I said, I'm going to share my political opinion. And I'm so afraid to do it because I don't know what you'll think of me. When I was able to do that, not knowing how they'd respond, I realized I am growing some ability here to be more honest than I was able to be before. And I want you to get on that path too. It's good you've read Boundaries.
Yeah.
So if I call him and he's still angry with me, I should just leave it.
Well, I would say to him, I'd really want to talk to you about this. Let me know when you're ready to have a discussion and resolve it. And then you can leave it and see if he reaches out to you. If it goes on for weeks, you could reach out and say, hey, I just want to check in to see if you're ready to have this conversation. But I wouldn't let it go, because if you let it go, you're going to be stuck in this pattern. He really needs to know what the limit line is. And I think you need to have that conversation and say that up front before the next rupture happens. You need to tell him what the limit line is and what the consequence is going to be, so that when you do hang up the phone, it doesn't seem like you're just doing it out of a protest or you're doing it to hurt him. He knows that he's infringing upon your boundaries because you're not willing to listen to him yell at you.
And I think you need to be braced and expect that he is going to have some emotional immaturity in this. Because although he's so far into his recovery, at least he's sober, he may not be doing that character work that grows up the emotional maturity to be able to control his tongue, to be able to really follow through on healthy level of conversation. So you might have to expect that you're dealing with a man whose emotional maturity level is about the age at which he started drinking. Which is probably pretty young.
And if he does,
somebody say that about him.
If he does apologize to you, Debbie, here's what I want to challenge you to do: is I want to challenge you to ask him for a commitment. Because a good apology is not just, oh, I'm sorry. A good apology has a commitment for how you're going to remediate the behavior so it doesn't happen again.
That's scary.
And that's your area of growth, is leaning into that scary anxiety of having that difficult conversation.
Well, Debbie, I'll land it here. You in addiction, we talk about being powerless over the addiction. You also are powerless over your brother's relational and emotional behaviors. And so acceptance along those lines. Acceptance doesn't mean we tolerate it. It just means that we don't expect it to be different than what he's shown it to be. And so that protects ourselves from being hurt. And part of that is understanding that a boundary starts with what's valuable. And when I see that myself is valuable and my well-being is valuable, and then the boundaries are what am I going to do to protect that. So Debbie, we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. And that's going to really just kind of open up more of these areas. We thank you for being with us. We thank all of you for being with us today. Thank you, Marc. Thank you, Alice. And may you have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.